Almost nobody says they're going to the Netherlands. They say they're going to Amsterdam. This sounds like a small linguistic shortcut, and it's actually the root of nearly every mistake tourists make in the country. Because the people who say, "I'm going to Amsterdam," tend to mean it literally. They book 4 nights in the capital. They orient the entire trip around it, and they treat everything outside the city limits as either inaccessible or not worth the trouble. And they do this in one of the few countries on Earth where that instinct is not just limiting but almost comically unnecessary, because the entire Netherlands functions, in practical terms, as a single connected city. Rotterdam is 40 minutes from Amsterdam by train. The Hague is under an hour. Utrecht is 25 minutes. Delft, Haarlem, Leiden, all of them closer to central Amsterdam than many suburbs are to the cities they belong to, all connected by a train network so dense and so reliable that the Dutch don't really think of these as separate destinations so much as different rooms in the same house. The mistake isn't that tourists run out of time to see the rest of the country. It's that they never realize the rest of the country is 15 to 40 minutes away and requires no planning more elaborate than walking into a station and getting on a train. That's the first half of the problem. The second half is what they're actually looking for when they get to Amsterdam, and it's a version of the city that the city itself is actively trying to stop being. Amsterdam has spent years in a public fight with its own reputation, and most tourists arrive without knowing the fight is happening. The image that draws a certain kind of visitor, the permissive playground, the coffee shops, the red light district as a kind of adult theme park, is real enough that it didn't come from nowhere. But it's also a version of the city that Amsterdam has decided it no longer wants to host. The city government has run campaigns explicitly discouraging that kind of tourism, told certain visitors directly that they're not welcome if that's what they're coming for, begun relocating parts of the red light district, and restricted the cannabis tourism that built a chunk of its global image. Arriving in Amsterdam expecting the freewheeling fantasy is, increasingly, arriving in a city that is visibly tired of being that fantasy and is renovating itself out of it in real time. Here's why this matters for an ordinary traveler who isn't coming for any of that. The entire tourist infrastructure of central Amsterdam is still built around serving that image, which means the parts of the city most visitors spend their time in, the dense ring around the red light district and the main canals near Centraal Station, are the parts most degraded by the kind of tourism the city is trying to shed. Crowded, loud, lined with businesses optimized for stag parties and day trippers, and almost entirely disconnected from how Amsterdam actually functions as a place where 900,000 people live. The tourist who never leaves this zone concludes that Amsterdam is overrated, overcrowded, and a bit grim. They're not wrong about the zone. They've just mistaken it for the city. The actual city starts a few canals out, and the shift is dramatic. The Jordaan, west of the center, is the Amsterdam that the photographs are reaching for: narrow streets, gabled houses leaning at improbable angles, brown cafes that have been serving the same neighborhood for a century, courtyards you stumble into by accident. De Pijp, south of the center, is where younger Amsterdam actually eats and drinks, built around the Albert Markt and a density of genuinely good restaurants that have nothing to do with tourist menus. The neighborhoods east of the center, the Eastern Docklands, Amsterdamist, are where the city's contemporary life happens, in former industrial buildings turned into food halls, and the kind of ordinary residential energy that the canal ring lost to tourism years ago. None of these require effort to reach. They're a 10-minute bike ride or a short tram from the center. They're just past the point where most people stop looking. Which brings up the bike and the single most dangerous misunderstanding tourists carry in the Netherlands. The bike is not a tourist activity here. It's infrastructure. The Dutch cycling system is one of the most sophisticated transport networks in the world, used by everyone, all the time for actual transportation, and it operates with a set of rules and a pace and a seriousness that tourists consistently fail to register until they've nearly been killed by it. The bike lanes are not decorative. They are roads with traffic, moving fast, used by people going to work who have exactly zero patience for a confused visitor standing in the middle of one to take a photo. Stepping into a bike lane in Amsterdam without looking is genuinely one of the most reliable ways for a tourist to get hurt, and locals will tell you, with some wariness, that it happens constantly. The mistake cuts two ways. Tourists on foot treat bike lanes as sidewalks and create danger. And tourists who rent bikes, appealing as it sounds, often underestimate how demanding it is to ride in a system designed for people who've done it since childhood, with its own unspoken codes, its own right-of-way conventions, its own velocity. Renting a bike on day one in central Amsterdam, with no experience of Dutch cycling culture, is not the charming experience it appears to be in the brochures. It's an anxious one, conducted in heavy traffic, surrounded by people who know precisely what they're doing and assume you do too. The bike is wonderful here. It just isn't a thing you pick up cold in the busiest part of the country. Then there's the weather, and an expectation that quietly ruins a lot of trips. People book the Netherlands for tulips and picture sunshine, and the Netherlands is, bluntly, not a sunny country. It's gray, it's wet, it's windy, and the weather changes several times a day with a flatness of landscape that means there's nothing to stop the wind from doing whatever it wants. The tulip season, roughly mid-April to early May, with Keukenhof Gardens as the focal point, is real and genuinely spectacular, but it's also a narrow window that draws enormous crowds, and the fields themselves are working agricultural land, not public parks, which catches out visitors who imagine they can wander freely through them. The deeper point about the weather is that the Dutch have built an entire culture around not being defeated by it, and tourists who fight it have a worse time than those who adopt the local approach. The Brown Cafe, the cozy, wood-paneled, centuries-old neighborhood pub, exists precisely because the weather drives people indoors into warm, social spaces. The concept of gezelligheid, that hard-to-translate Dutch idea of cozy conviviality, is in large part a response to a climate that makes the indoors something you actively cultivate rather than merely tolerate. The visitor who treats gray weather as a trip ruiner is missing that the Dutch built their entire social life around exactly these conditions, and that some of the best experiences in the country happen specifically because it's miserable outside. The last mistake is treating the Netherlands as a place you pass through on the way to somewhere else. It's small, it's central, it's exceptionally well connected to the rest of Europe, and it has a long history of being the country people transit rather than the country people choose. Schiphol is one of the great connecting airports of the world, which means an enormous number of people touch Dutch soil for a few hours between flights and never count it as a visit, and a smaller but significant number tack 2 days in Amsterdam onto a broader European trip as an afterthought. Both treat the country as a corridor. What this misses is that the Netherlands rewards the kind of attention that corridors don't get. The art alone justifies a serious trip, not just the Rijksmuseum and the Van Gogh Museum in Amsterdam, but the Mauritshuis in The Hague with its Vermeers, the Krölermuller in a national park with the second largest Van Gogh collection in the world surrounded by a sculpture garden you cycle through. The Dutch Golden Age produced one of the densest concentrations of great painting in human history, and it's distributed across a country small enough to see most of it in a focused week. The landscape, flat and engineered and reclaimed from the sea, is unlike anywhere else, a country that largely shouldn't exist geographically and persists through one of the most impressive feats of sustained water management on the planet. The cheese, the markets, the canal towns that look like Amsterdam without the crowds, the cycling routes through countryside that the Dutch use for actual recreation. None of this shows up if you treat the place as a layover with a museum attached. The Netherlands isn't a city called Amsterdam, and Amsterdam isn't the playground it's still expected to be. The country is bigger than the capital in every way except geography, and the capital is better than its reputation precisely in the places its reputation never sent you. Both of those become obvious the moment you get on a train, step out of the center, and let the actual country, the 15 minutes past where everyone else stopped looking, show you what it actually is. Thanks for watching. If you found this useful, smash that like button and subscribe to When to Travel. We're all about helping you make smarter travel decisions. Turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one. And hey, if you think your friends need this, share it. Comment below with your next destination or your biggest travel question. I'm reading all of them. Let's go.